All right, this could possibly be the coolest thing I've ever tested on this channel.
Back in the day, one of my favorite movies was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And one of my favorite scenes in that movie was the lawnmower scene where the kid come over, went to cut the grass, and he got to do it remote control. Oh, I could have only have dreamed as a child, but I never knew one day it might actually become a reality. Today is that day, my friend.
So this time of year, I usually get tons of requests to review lawnmowers, every sort and kind of lawnmower.
And 98% of the time, I turn them down. They're mostly the same. There's nothing really exciting about them, and it just seems like my audience wouldn't care about them all that much.
But then I got an email from a company called Mowrator, which I've never heard of before, never used any of their products, and no, I'm not getting paid to do this review. I don't even get a commission on any of the sales on this thing, so if you buy it, it means nothing to me. And when they first emailed me and asked me if I wanted to use it, my first response was, nah, till I seen that right there. And this mower is 100% controlled by this remote control, which I thought was so freaking cool. It really brought me back to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I was like, I gotta have this. We're gonna talk about everything that you need to know about this mower, the awesomeness about this mower, and some of the shortcomings about this mower.
All right, so first up, let's talk about the unboxing and putting this thing together. One person can do it. I did it myself. However, if you have two people, well, that would be real nice. Like, you're going to have to put the wheels on, which didn't make any sense to me. They should have just put the wheels on, but whatever. Now, my first impression with this was, okay, this is primer on here, but it looks tough. Like, the welds and everything, they're machine welded. Aluminum alloy, it was really cool looking. You do get some bolts in here. However, they don't put them in a bag. They really should do that. It would be easy to lose these if you weren't paying attention. But all you really have to do is put the wheels together, and I mean, that really doesn't take any time at all. It's super simple to do, everything lined up really easy. And those tires, they're rubber the whole way through, so you don't have to worry about getting flats. You get a couple bolts, you just toss those in, you make sure they're lined up, and you just tighten them down with the Allen wrench. Everything's provided, and it takes about a half an hour to get everything going.
Now, the one thing they really thought of, and they probably had to, was safety on this mower. A lot of people probably hear remote control mowers and think, well, these are just dangerous. But this thing is super safe. Let me show you. So first off, you have two emergency control buttons right up on top. One right here and one right here. Now to get those to reset, you just turn this and they'll pop back out. You also have an e-stop right here on the remote. So if you push this, shuts everything down. If you push it again, it'll reset it. Now the cool thing about this mower is you have not one, not two, not three, but 4 sensors. This will come with them all on. So if you have a dog or cat or a kid that runs out in front of this thing, it'll sense it a few feet back and shut it down. You also have a bumper up on the front right here. I'll show you in a bit how this works, but when you bump something, it'll just shut the mower down. But don't worry, it's not as sensitive as you might think it is. All right, so let's take a look on the inside. What we got battery wise. You're gonna get a 56 volt 12 AH. This is the LifePo 4 with this. Now we have this thing plugged in right now. How you do that is simply by doing this, and then that'll go over it like so. And on the back here, you have to open this up. Now this must be all the way in, or this thing will go into emergency stop mode. So another safety feature, but all you do is take it out like so. Now, if you did plan on getting into this thing, you could buy extra batteries. And depending on how high or moist your grass is, you should get over an acre of cut time with the one battery. You also got a big old fan in there, so it's gonna keep that battery nice and cool. So we'll just take this and put it in again like so. And again, this has to be locked in. If not, that emergency is going to kick on. To start this, you would just plug this in. To charge it, well, you're going to end up getting one of these charging bricks. You can see this just plugs into your outlet, and then this will go right into the battery. I don't know why, I'm just not a big fan of how this sort of sitting off to the side here, so I do wish this was a little bit longer. However, as for the remote to charge this, you use a C port up on top. Now, I'll tell you, I was excited that this did not take a bunch of AA batteries. They give you a very cheap chintzy cord that comes with this, and it's like the only one that'll charge this. It charges on a very slow rate. So if you have like a fast phone charger, it's just not going to work with this. So this takes about an hour, hour and a half to charge up as well. So it's a little bit slower than I would have liked. So the build quality on this thing is insane. Super high strength aluminum alloy. Now this is the standard model. However, they do have a couple different models. This is a 2-wheel drive, and the back has the larger wheels. They also have a 4-wheel drive, which I think I would have liked a little bit better considering my situation, which I'll show you here in a bit. They give you a hose clean out, so if you want to clean out the bottom of this thing, well, you just attach your hose to it. Doesn't come with the mulching blade, which I wish it would have. However, you can order them, or you can use a general purpose. Also has a tip over safety, so if this thing goes down a hill, it's going to shut off. Now they did forget the mulching plug. It should have came with this. However, I did leave them a message. They called back very quickly, and that's before they knew who I was. It was a different department, and they were very cool and said they were going to send it out this week. So hopefully within the next day or two, I should get it. The mower deck itself, very easy to raise and lower. It's just one single lever. You bring it down like this, or you bring it up again. And you got this sort of independent suspension going on in the front, which I'll show you in a bit. It just moves, it glides, so cuts really, really real nice like. All right, so we're gonna get this thing going here. I wanna show you the remote and how it works. It's super easy. When you first get it, you're gonna be a little bit confused, and I had the password for you to get into this thing if you decide to buy it. So now comes the fun part, my friends. All right, let's open this up here. You just push that and go like that. And here's your power button. We're gonna hold this in for about 2 seconds. You're gonna see those green lights starting to kick on. That's all you gotta do. So this will eventually kick the light on. It's gonna go to white. We gotta close this door. And then we're gonna come and turn our remote on. But you can see this thing's sort of filling up here. It's probably gonna go to red because we don't have the remote on yet. And you got a light on the other side. So you can see that's a red light, meaning that's a no-go. Those are usually kicking on when you hit the emergency stop button or if your remote's not paired. Now, when you first get this remote, you might be overwhelmed a little bit. I mean, it looks easy, but there are a few tricks to the trade. But first, let's get these red lights off. I'm gonna hit the power button. And it's gonna ask you for a password. You can see there's a LED screen up on the top, right there. Now the problem is they don't send you the password. And I literally went 11111, 22222, 33. It ended up being 8888888888. And then you can change that if you want to. You just hit reset password. But for this, we'll go 888888. And then you can see those just kicked on green. So that means that this is now connected. So if you just get this, you don't know what the password is, it's all 8. Now this is just idle, by the way. You can hear how quiet this thing is. Like you don't hear it. And even with the mower blades going, it's still only like 62 dB. All right, so now that we got our controller hooked up, we could do a couple different things. We're gonna go completely manual. This right here, which has a nice little, I don't know, I don't wanna say spikes, but they're non-slip. So this isn't gonna slip out of your hand. So if I wanna go forward, just like a regular remote, if I wanna go backwards, it goes a lot slower. If I wanna go right and left, I just use this. Now, of course, this is the emergency stop button. Watch what happens to those lights. I'm gonna push it, they turn red. If I push it again, it'll turn back to green. You have a slow and a fast mode. So you got the turtle in the hare. We're in a fast mode. This goes like 3.5 miles per hour. And to adjust that, you just flip that switch and it'll go slow. You have your power button here, which I just showed you, and then you have your blade speed. So let me show you how this starts. I gotta hold both of these down at the same time, and then once I get it going, I have to hold at least one of these down at all times. It sounds like a pain, but it's not. So hold them down. You're gonna see a thing pop up that says press OK to cut, hit OK, and it starts up. So as soon as I let go of both of these, it's going to shut off. So let's go slice and dice, use and abuse, and I'll show you what these other buttons here do, the smart mode, the manual mode, this here, all that good stuff. It literally does not get any lazier than this, like at all. So lazy. Oh yeah, I strapped the GoPro to the front of this and I'll put it on the back as well. All right, here we go. We kick those blades on. I got it on the second setting, all right. And we're on slow mode now. Let's go, let's just speed this up a little bit. This is so fun. All right, so I'm basically just using, oh wow, this thing does cut really well. Let me get it, this is like all nasty down there. So we're gonna turn around. This thing really does have a good range to it. Now I'm gonna show you some tricks to this mower, which is really freaking cool. You can see that I'm sort of like going left, going right. You can keep this pretty straight, but it's very bumpy down there. It is really bumpy, hilly, muddy. My yard's a mess in the springtime. This is freaking awesome. All right, so there's a couple really cool things I'm gonna show you with this. Number one is, what I love about this is you can get under really low areas. So if I didn't have my GoPro under here, I can go right underneath that picnic table. But because I have my GoPro, I can't. Now, what's cool about this is I can control this, but there are a couple auto modes. So let me show you the auto modes and how those work. So if I wanted to, I can go straight, but if I wanted to line up my lines pretty much perfectly, I can come over here, and there's a button here and a button here. If I hit this button, you're going to see this hit OK. You can shut this off. It'll reset this once I reset the remote. So if I power it off and power it back on, you're going to have to shut this off again. But I hit OK. Watch what happens to that right there. It's going to go and it's going to line up that line perfectly on its own. If I were to come over here and hit this button, it would do the same thing, but the opposite direction. We'll just hit OK. And you can see that it lines it up. However, another really cool feature that this has is the smart mode. Now, if I were to put this on smart mode, those are going to switch to red. And now what happens is I can use this button right here. And it's basically going to send this in a straight line. And then if I were to turn this, it would automatically turn it around. So watch what happens. I'm going to push this button and it's automatically going to go straight. I'm going to hit OK. And look, now it's going to cut. If I were to hold those in, it would cut in a straight line. However, if I push this button, it'll stop. Once it gets down to where you need it to cut, I can stop it by pushing this button, or I can hit this button and it would automatically turn it. Now, I don't like using auto mode unless I'm on a flat, straight surface. My front yard, it works great. However, on this with the hill, gravity wants to take over and it does veer from that straight line. So I'm just throwing that out there. Now, this thing is pretty freaking quick. I mean, 3.5 miles per hour. I'm not walking that. Well, you can see it's shooting it out the back of the bag. And again, this is bumpy, hilly. So what I'm gonna do, watch. If I wanna line that line up without doing this, I could do this. You can see it's moving down there. But what I could do is I could just hit this button again and it'll kick on. See how it's doing that? All right, we kicked her back on. It's so much fun to use this thing. Now, if you don't have a crazy hill, it does do a pretty good job going straight. And it does do a 0 turn motion on that. That's freaking wild. All right, so now I got my GoPro on the back here again, and let's start this thing up. We're gonna go slow because this GoPro, the sticker sucks. It spits it out the back. For not having a mulching kit in there, it does a pretty good job. I mean, not as good as if you were to have the mulching, but this thing is so freaking awesome. I love it. It's quiet too. That's what's nice about this. I'm just sort of moving this around a little bit so you get the different angles. All right, so again, the other really cool thing, like I was telling you, is being able to go underneath like a trampoline or, you know, picnic table. You know, I can never get under there with my regular mowers. I think there was a toy under there. Now, the other really nice thing about that right there is, so the backyard here in the spring and the fall, it just holds the moisture. We're like at the lowest end of the development. And when you use a riding tractor, it just smooshes down the dirt. It's not real nice. But with this, it's light. So this isn't going to sink into the ground. It would be like a push mower, which I would usually use this time of year. But what about like rough terrain? Well, I think that's sort of rough terrain. Here we go, yo. Like, I will tell you that what's nice about this is that you have the back wheels, which do a pretty good job. This thing was 4-wheel drive. You're never getting it stuck. I have not gotten this stuck yet. However, it's come close a couple times, but you can see it's like got those big bumps. And it will get around those.
All right, let's talk about that giant bumper up in the front. Remember I was telling you about this a little bit ago? Well, let me show you what it does.
Well, you can adjust those sensors where it will stop before it hits, just like on your car. Before you hit something, it'll stop. But what's cool about this is to say if you turn those sensors off, we're going to run it into the tree, and it doesn't do it hard. A little bit of a tap and it'll completely shut this thing off. Now you can see that the red light's on. You can hear a little bit of a beep noise. That's telling me that I had to reset that battery. It's not going to let you just restart it. You got to come over here physically, see what you hit, shut it off, turn it back on, and it'll reset itself. And now you can see it went back to green. Now I was a little bit concerned about that. Now the reason why I was concerned about this was because of these trees. So I don't want this thing going in an emergency stop every time I cut around like one of my pine trees. However, they engineered this out good enough that you can go around this stuff. Unless you run into that trunk, it's not shutting this thing off. Now, as well as this thing does, there is one other little downside to this. Usually your mower deck will stick out a little bit further past your wheelbase. However, on this, you can see it does not. So maybe you're trying to go around some of your landscaping, maybe try to get up a little bit closer to your pool, or you're on a curb. Well, the wheel is going to have to stick out further past, so you're not going to be able to get as close as you could with a regular push mower. Now, you're only talking maybe 3 inches, but still, that is an issue. Oh, and FYI, the bagger is crazy easy to use. All you're going to do is lift this up, throw this in the back like so. It connects, and that's it. Now, they do have some other really cool things planned for this mower. Number one, you can get the hydraulics system where it attaches to the back, and you don't even have to touch the bag. When this thing fills up, you hit the button, and it'll like lift up by itself and move forward and empty it itself. Me personally, I think that's pretty real nice like. They also have a leaf collection system where you're able to attach it to the back, and it's a vacuum. And it's going to pull the leaves in, mulch it up, and then spit it out into the bag, of course. But not only does this thing cut really well and do a good job, it's crazy fun to use. Now, a lot of people might say to themselves, well, that's going to get old real quick. Well, they are coming out with apparently a GPS system like some of the other mowers where you just set it and forget it. It'll go back to a base, charge up, and it'll go by satellite once it learns your yard. So that is going to be an available option coming soon. But this is crazy freaking popular with everybody I showed this to. Everybody that's seen it, they loved it. They couldn't believe what it was when they were looking at it. And it was just an awesome talking piece. But it does a good job, and that's the most important part. Like, I'm really surprised with how well this thing handles being remote control. Like, you can get this thing to do pretty straight lines just with a flick of a finger.
Now, another group of people that I think will really like this, other than the man-child, such as myself, are people that actually live on hills. You know what I'm talking about. You're driving and you're like, how do they cut that? This thing here, you could do, you know, between a 24 and 37% grade on a hill, and you do have that rollover protection, so if anything did happen, you know, it would shut off. So just throwing that out there again, I mean, if you're living on a hill and you're tired of working in a slanted position, this might work out really well for you.
And the other thing it does really well is going around curvatures. So you can see my landscaping here. And again, as far as it goes with the rough terrain, there's no issues with it. As far as it goes with cutting higher grass, just set your deck blade up a little bit higher. As far as it goes with cutting thick grass, yeah, it'll do it. You just got to set your deck up like you would with a regular mower. And then if it's crazy high, just cut it at the high setting. And once you get a little bit lower, bring it a little bit lower. And again, you do not have to get up off your chair. If you have a clear line of sight, you're good to go. If you're over like a big hill, then you might have to get up and move your chair a little bit. And they are 40% off right now for like the next week. So I'll leave a link in the description below. These are newer. The Mowrator just came out. So if this is something that you'd like, let me know what you think in that sweet comment section below. And I know I'm gonna hear from some of you saying, you're just being lazy. Yeah, sort of the point. You know what they say, work smarter, not harder. Could be the other way around, I don't know. Back with more videos soon.